On the afternoon of Friday, September 2, 2016, a peaceful walk home from school turned into a scene of unspeakable tragedy in Wichita Falls, Texas. 13-year-olds Lauren Landavazo and Michaela Smith were navigating their familiar path, engaging in the usual chatter and laughter that comes with the end of a school day. Their route took them through an alleyway, a shortcut they had likely taken countless times before. However, on this day, their sense of security was shattered by the sudden appearance of an unfamiliar vehicle that ground to a halt right in front of them. The emergence of a young man from the vehicle initially seemed like a peculiar interruption to an otherwise ordinary day. The girls, assuming perhaps that this was some sort of ill-conceived joke, chose to ignore the stranger and continued on their way. This decision, made in a moment, would lead to catastrophic consequences. In mere seconds, a carefree walk home was transformed into a horrific crime scene, with Lauren fatally wounded and Michaela desperately fighting for her life. The attacker, after locking eyes with the two young students, returned to his SUV only to emerge armed with a rifle. What followed was a chilling act of violence. 16 shots rang out, leaving Lauren struck by 15 bullets, her young life ebbing away on the concrete. Michaela, too, was hit in the chest by the initial shot. Yet, amidst the chaos and pain, she summoned the will to escape, her survival instinct propelling her to safety despite her grave injury. The gunman's departure from the scene was swift, leaving behind a community in shock and disbelief. The vicinity, populated by fellow students making their way home from McNeil Middle School, became an impromptu witness to the atrocity. The prompt arrival of emergency services brought a flurry of activity, but for one family, the world was about to come crashing down. Bianca Landavazo, upon receiving a frantic call about a shooting near her daughter's school, raced to the scene, only to be met with the harrowing sight of paramedics fighting to save Lauren. The air was pierced with the sound of her anguish, a mother's worst nightmare unfolding before her eyes. Lauren's father, Vern, arrived soon after, clinging to a hope that was fading as fast as the light in his daughter's eyes. Despite Bianca's immediate grasp of the grim reality, Vern held on to the belief that somehow, their daughter would pull through. The hospital brought only heartbreak to the Landavazos, as they were informed that Lauren, who had just embarked on her 8th grade year, had died from her injuries. The autopsy report detailed the brutal efficiency of the attack. 15 bullet wounds inflicted by a .22 caliber rifle, with 2 fatal shots to the head, confirming the cause of death as homicide. Meanwhile, Michaela, hospitalized and in serious condition, provided investigators with a description of the assailant. A young white male, with chestnut hair and distinctive facial features, including a notable nose and acne. This account, together with testimonies from witnesses who observed a gold SUV speeding away, was instrumental in the creation of a composite sketch. This image, swiftly disseminated through local media, was a crucial step in the pursuit of justice for Lauren and Michaela, a beacon of hope in the midst of a community reeling from an inconceivable act of violence. In the tense hours following a devastating tragedy, the Wichita Falls community was on edge, grappling with the aftermath of a shocking crime that took the life of a young girl and left another fighting for survival. It was during this period of collective grief and anger that a crucial tip came to light, setting the course for an investigation that would soon unravel a chilling narrative of obsession and violence. A concerned citizen, aware of the police's desperate search for leads, reported something suspicious she had observed. Her neighbor, 20-year-old Cody Lott, appeared to be carrying a rifle case into his apartment on the very day of the murder. This observation was particularly alarming given the proximity of Lott's residence to the alleyway where the horrifying incident had occurred. Seizing on this potential lead, detectives were quick to prioritize Lott as a person of interest in their ongoing investigation. As fate would have it, at the same time this information was being processed, another significant report came through. A couple had noticed a young man in a gold SUV parked near the hastily erected memorial at the shooting site. Given the recency of this sighting, police officers wasted no time racing to the location, hopeful that they might intercept the suspect. Their efforts soon paid off when they spotted a gold SUV traveling away from the memorial site. The officers pulled the vehicle over and, after a brief exchange with the driver, obtained his consent to search the SUV. The driver, who introduced himself as Cody Lott, seemed overly confident, perhaps due to his recent efforts to meticulously clean the vehicle's interior. Although the search did not immediately turn up any evidence directly linking Lot to the shooting, officers did discover a pair of brass knuckles, a possession illegal in Texas at the time. This find provided the necessary grounds to detain Lot for possession of a prohibited weapon, leading to his arrest and booking on charges that included a substantial fine and potential jail time. With Lot in custody, detectives seized the opportunity to interrogate him about the double shooting. Initially, Lot feigned ignorance, adamantly denying any knowledge of the crime. However, as the interrogation wore on, Lot's demeanor shifted, gradually becoming more comfortable, or perhaps emboldened, by his interactions with the detectives. Lot began to share a story that was as confounding as it was horrifying. Lot revealed a deeply disturbing obsession with Lauren Landavazo, a fixation that had begun innocently enough as he watched her pass by his apartment each day after school. Captivated by her physical appearance, particularly her striking eyes, Lot's fascination grew into a possessive delusion, convincing himself that Lauren was, in some sense, his own. This twisted fantasy curdled into malice one day when Lot witnessed Lauren walking hand in hand with a boy her age. Enraged by what he perceived as a personal betrayal, Lot resolved to punish the young girl he had never personally interacted with. Lot's confession also touched on his troubled personal life. He admitted to having short-lived relationships with women in the past, attributing the failures to his own emotional immaturity and unrealistic expectations. A court-appointed psychiatrist would later reveal that Lot confessed to harboring hate in his heart towards women. This deep-seated resentment, combined with his jealousy of those in fulfilling relationships, had driven him into a delusional fantasy where Lauren was imagined to be devoted solely to him. The sight of her with someone else shattered this illusion, propelling Lot towards committing an act of unimaginable violence. Driven by a vindictive impulse, Lot appropriated one of his stepfather's rifles, laying the groundwork for his heinous act. When the opportunity presented itself, with Lauren and her friend Michaela unsuspectingly crossing his path, he executed his plan. Blocking their way with his SUV, he discharged the firearm. Michaela was the first to fall, a victim of circumstance. The remaining bullets were reserved for Lauren, the intended target. Regrettably, for Lot, his ammunition depleted before he could eliminate Michaela, the sole witness to his crime. In a twisted justification, Lot later discarded the notion of jealousy, instead portraying himself as a savior. He rationalized his actions as a preemptive strike against future harm that might befall Lauren, believing that by ending her life prematurely, he had spared her from potential predators. This convoluted logic laid bare the depths of his delusion, painting a portrait of a man lost in his own distorted reality. After being guided back to reality by his interrogators, Lot went on to say that he had fled from the scene when he noticed that a crowd was starting to gather. In a panic, he had ditched the murder weapon in a field. Later that evening, when he was sure the coast was clear, he had retrieved the gun and put it back where he found it. Since he had no known ties to the victims, he assumed that he was free and clear. He had placed little importance on the fact that he had opened fire on the helpless schoolgirls in broad daylight in the presence of dozens of onlookers. The detectives, trying to unravel the thought process behind such a heinous act, questioned Lot about his motive for killing someone who was completely unaware of his existence. Energized by the spotlight he found himself under, Lot shared his initial desire for companionship, believing the girl he targeted was the perfect match. Upon learning she was already in a relationship, he twistedly concluded that if he couldn't have her, nobody should. Caught up in the narrative he was spinning, Lot boasted about having support from a dark and sinister figure. He claimed the devil, whom he referred to as Mr. Scratch, played the role of an accomplice, egging him on as the day of the crime approached. Lot portrayed his discussions with this malevolent entity as the final nudge he needed to proceed with his plan. With the supposed backing of this nefarious ally, Lot described the act of murder as if it were a mere task, easily executed and devoid of conscience. This confession led to Lot facing serious charges, 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Despite the evidence and his own admissions, he entered a plea of not guilty to both charges. The seriousness of his crimes was reflected in the bail set at $4 million, ensuring his detention until the trial. Further investigation into Lot's behavior revealed disturbing content on his electronic devices, including images of underage girls in explicit situations. This discovery added possession of child pornography to his list of offenses. A former girlfriend provided a chilling account of her time with Lot, describing him as dangerously volatile. She recounted a terrifying episode where he attempted to strangle her, followed by accusations of kidnapping and tormenting her and her son after their breakup. Her silence until his arrest was out of fear of reprisal, highlighting the terror Lot was capable of instilling in his victims. Lot's egotism was evident in his keen following of the media's portrayal of the crime. Angered by the depiction of the shooting as a random act, he sought recognition for the premeditation and planning involved, all the while absurdly maintaining his innocence. People who knew Lot painted him as an entitled individual, used to having his way, often resulting in tyrannical behavior. His drug use and social ineptitude marked him as an outcast, with his actions frequently bordering on the edge of sanity. The trial, initially set for early 2018, was delayed when a defense plea regarding Lot's mental state was accepted, arguing he was unfit to participate in the legal proceedings. After a period in a psychiatric facility, where he received extensive treatment, Lot was eventually declared competent to stand trial, setting the stage for legal proceedings to finally move forward. In the courtroom, the prosecution led by District Attorney Maureen Shelton and Chief Prosecutor Ron Poole painted a vivid picture of Cody Lot as a premeditated murderer who had fixated on his young victim for months before the fatal day. They emphasized the chilling fact that had Lot not depleted his ammunition, Michaela too would have not survived the attack. Contrastingly, Lot's defense team portrayed him as a man besieged by mental illness, arguing that his capacity to discern right from wrong was impaired. They suggested that Lot, driven by uncontrollable impulses, was more a prisoner to his own mind than a cold-blooded killer. After deliberating for a mere 40 minutes on September 19, 2018, the jury returned a guilty verdict. The sentencing phase culminated in Lot receiving life imprisonment plus an additional 20 years, setting a parole eligibility date in 2048. At that time, Lot will be 52, having spent a significant portion of his life behind bars. Throughout the trial, Lot exhibited a brazen lack of remorse, maintaining a defiant demeanor even as the gravity of his actions, the murder of a young girl and the traumatic wounding of her friend, was laid bare. Michaela's life is forever altered, not only by the psychological scars but also by the physical reminder of the bullet lodged in her chest, a grim souvenir of the attack. The decision to leave the bullet in place speaks to the precariousness of her recovery and the uncertain path ahead. In memory of Lauren and in acknowledgement of Michaela's enduring bravery, McNeil Middle School became home to a black horse statue, a symbol of resilience adorned with messages of love and life, along with paw prints in purple and blue, a nod to the girls' favorite colors. This statue stood as a beacon of the community's collective mourning and a tribute to Lauren's compassionate spirit. Lauren's life was marked by kindness, a legacy that the memorial aimed to encapsulate. Her natural inclination to welcome and befriend those new to her school underscored a generosity of spirit that, tragically, her killer misconstrued in his deluded pursuit. The enactment of Lauren's Law on June 11, 2019, marked a significant legislative response to the horror of Lauren's murder, raising the age threshold for capital punishment in cases involving the murder of children. While it doesn't apply to Lauren's case, her parents' advocacy for this law stands as a testament to their determination to forge a legacy of protection for children in Texas, aiming to prevent future tragedies.